On July 29th, 2025, David Burke last drove the Tesla to this Ross Dress for Less, and we know this because a receipt was found in his vehicle. However, I have some speculation as to why I think he was actually here, and I don't think it has anything to actually do with the Ross. Now, I'm going to tell you why my speculative thought of why this had nothing to do with needing to go to Ross, this little trip he made right before leaving on his tour. As you can see, I'm taking you to the back area of the parking lot of Ross. It's on a second story at the upper level of this shopping center, and it's a pretty big parking lot and wide open air on the rooftop. Now you can see it's a huge Tesla charging station all along the back, really big. And there's some spots that you can park in to kind of catty corner on the ends that keep you away from the other areas. This is why I think David was actually at this location, because there are so many Ross stores in Los Angeles and plenty more that are so much closer to his home in the Hollywood Hills where he lives. It makes no sense for him to need to go to this smaller Ross out near Culver City that's in Palms, Los Angeles. My line of thinking is that David was unable to charge his vehicle before leaving for tour from his home. He had people that were coming over to be able to get on the tour bus with him. Some likely his manager was there. He had his friends that were going on the tour bus with him. Taking the Tesla that has had Celeste in the front sitting there decaying for months at this point, it would be impossible for him to realistically charge his vehicle at the home. Who knows how he had been charging it all this time? This location for a Tesla charging station is out of the way. However, some areas, say gas stations or other spots where they have, places to charge, are not as wide open or spacious. This is a spacious area to charge. So for me, when we look at, this is directly from the transcripts here, right? This is from the detective that says there was a receipt in the vehicle for a purchase made at Ross Dress for Less. This caused the detectives to follow up to that location to attempt to retrieve any surveillance video according to the transaction that was made. This was the Ross Dress for Less located at 8985 Venice Boulevard. It was July 29, 2025. Again, on this receipt, they were able to get video surveillance of David. It says at that point they observed an individual making that transaction who they later identified to be the defendant, Mr. Burke. Now, why this matters is because people commonly charge their Tesla there and then they just walk into Ross Dress for Less. There's also other stores in that little shopping center. Below it, there's a Sprouts right there. There's a CVS in that lot. There's a Wingstop and various other things. Now, again, in these transcripts, it says that they were able to observe video of the Tesla driving through Hollywood, Culver City, Los Angeles area, which appeared to be the route to and from what was later to be determined his residence address. His phone last connected to the Tesla, disconnected on July 29th, 2025, around 2:15, 2:18 p.m. And that was, again, it lined up with the same day being the July 29th date, the same day as the receipt in the Tesla that they observed when they did their investigation on September 9th. And this just kind of lined up with their timeline of matching things out. But again, this was something to me that, like I said, we have a lot of Ross Dress for Lesses, and it didn't make sense to me why he would go to that one, which is not the closest one to his home. Yet he would likely need to charge his Tesla before going on tour and letting it sit there. I don't know much about Teslas personally. I don't have one, so I'm not an expert on that and what it requires to charge up ahead of time. But if he did not have the capability to charge at home, he would likely seek out a charging station that maybe has an area like this. There's nothing enclosed and there's more space to space out, because he probably wouldn't want his car as close as someone else that could be walking by it, or in an attempt to try to hide the smell. Now, there's also on that little block right there, this, and I'm going to say, I don't think it would, overpower the smell, but when you're on that rooftop, what you can smell is the In and Out that is right there on that street. It is overwhelming on the rooftop. You smell in and out. So again, I think this was more of a strategic route that he took to go not to the Ross Dress for Less, but to actually just charge his Tesla before he had to leave. So that's just my speculation on why he may have actually been there, and that the primary reason was not the Ross Dress for Less. It just happened to be a secondary thing that happened, because when you're there charging your vehicle, like I said, people go into the store to shop to just kind of let some time go by while their vehicle is charging. And we know that once he was done there and made that route back home, that is when he last parked the Tesla on the street, hopped on that tour bus for tour, and nothing happened regarding that Tesla until it was ticketed and towed, and then Celeste was discovered on September 8th, 2025. So let me know what you think. Again, purely speculative on my part. This is just for me living in Los Angeles and knowing these locations, and just trying to put two and two together, especially when some things don't seem to make sense. Remember, what happens in the dark will always come to the light. Thank you so much for tuning into The Light True Crime. If you haven't, make sure that you're following me for more updates on this case and many others that I do cover. Stay safe, be careful, and I will see you all in the next one.